Congratulations, you have finished your PhD. Now what do you do? If that's something that is on your mind, then this video is going to help you, because we're going to be talking about 7 different career options you can take once you have finished your PhD. And believe me, you'll be really surprised at the range of options you have once you have your doctorate in any field that you might be doing research in. So the first one is naturally staying in research and actually staying in academia. So once you finish your PhD, you can go down academic postdoc routes to build your portfolio, get more papers, actually get involved in writing grants, get involved in supervising students, and build up your research academic pedigree to the point where you can potentially apply for a senior fellow if you wanted to, and go down that actual professor route in terms of actually doing research purely away from teaching. But I have to warn you, this is not an easy route to go down. Many of us start out doing our PhD being a purist, we love research, but unfortunately academia, as you've seen in recent videos that I've made on this channel, I'll put the links down in the video description, it can be ruthless. So you know, the highs of contributing to a research field and making a big impact can be hit hard by the lows of trying to keep getting funding, trying to look after students, trying to meet really tight deadlines for work you're doing with company funded research. It can be relentless, so keep in mind that it is not an easy route to go down, even if you do want to go it. But again, in this video I'm trying to show the pros and cons of each of these routes, but it is an exciting opportunity if you do want to stay in research and stay in academia. Option 2 is actually staying in academia but going down the teaching route. So many of us who do a PhD, we might enjoy research, but we don't really want to do it full time, or we don't want to do it for the foreseeable future. However, in our research, in our PhDs, we enjoy perhaps the teaching side, supervising students and helping that side of academia, which is also really important. Who's going to teach the next generation of scientists? You need teaching lecturers. And most posts in a STEM field, or even from the sports science, which are the areas that I'm used to, generally do have a doctorate, do have a PhD in order to meet the criteria to apply for a lectureship. The great thing about lectureship is that job security. No, you don't always have that perhaps in a senior fellow route. Potentially you might have like a 5-year or 6-year tenureship, but with a lecture you can actually be permanent, which is really great from a job security point of view. From if you're looking to raise a family and stuff like that, you have that secured income coming in, and also you get to work with students, which might be something you are into. Now the only downside of this route is that it can get repetitive. I have seen lecturers who want to leave the role because even though it is a very prestigious thing to say that you are a lecturer at a university, and rightly so, it's not an easy role to do, it's not an easy role to get as well, believe me, I know from personal experience. But you then have that repetitiveness of teaching perhaps the same thing over the years and years. Marking is a big problem in lecturing, and in the point where a lot of your time is spent in marking, whether it's exams or coursework. So keep in mind, it's also not a 9-to-5 job, even though people claim it to be. You have so much admin to do, with you're looking after the module on the course, with your admissions tutor or anything like that. There's a lot of extracurricular activities you need to do within a lectureship that make the hours sometimes long-winded, but you do have that job security point of view and that perhaps status, which is also quite a nice thing. If you don't like academia, you can go down the industry route, where you can use your research skills and use your lab skills if you were doing laboratory work in an industry or in a company point of view, where it's, you've got these pharmaceutical companies, you've got these drug companies, you've got these kind of biosciences companies, whether you are helping to test blood for athletes, or whether you're looking to design new drugs or new immunotherapies for the market. Industry is a huge area, it's very well funded, it funds a lot of academic posts as well, to keep in mind, and there are so many private sector roles where you can use your research skills and your research brain for an impact away from academia, believe it or not. If you're watching this PhD and you are doing a PhD, you will be familiar with some of the industry contacts you have that might be funding part of your research, or might be there at conferences you might attend. And going down that route, sometimes people say, you want to go for the money, but it's a great work-life balance. Yes, there is more money in there, but sometimes that's a great incentive if you're looking to raise a family, if you're looking to invest in something. You might need that extra income, and having that work-life balance, you're not running around like a headless chicken most of the time, might be worth it. Now the other thing, which is a negative point, if you want to call it that, is that you lose some of that purist feeling, because again, these companies are a business, and a lot of research is governed by a business model. Not always. It's not like sinister that, okay, we want to make this because we want X amount. Some companies are like that, some aren't, and you might enjoy that industry feeling or that industry balance because it might have been toxic in your academic career. I know from personal experience. So industry is a great avenue. I used to be biased towards anti-industry, it's all about academia, but as I've gotten older I've realised that you do need both. You do need industry contacts that help to fund the academic, and vice versa. So see what fits for you. And this route is actually quite interesting that I came about whilst I was doing my PhD, where you can go down this kind of consulting route from a research point of view. So you might not be actively doing research, but you might be consulting on projects of your expertise. So to give you an idea, some of my colleagues who were in environmental chemistry, so their PhD was on wastewater treatment, a lot of chemistry, a lot of that type of science, but they went down a consulting route where they were to consult on wastewater treatments from other companies for Severn Trent and others. So they're not perhaps actively doing research, but they're using their knowledge and experience of that area to consult and advise on what should be done from a actual industry point of view, but away from actually doing the work. That's why I've separated this from an industry point of view, because this, you're not actively doing research, you are more advising and consulting, and that sometimes might be what people enjoy. You might enjoy the research but away from actually doing all of the actual science, but you enjoy talking about it, you enjoy discussing it, you enjoy advising about it, and that's where the consulting route and even kind of a clinical aspect can come in as a really good viable career option post-PhD. So this fifth career option is essentially what I'm doing right now in my general day-to-day life, and even what I'm doing right now in this video. Something known as scientific journalism or scientific communication, which is kind of the umbrella term. A lot of this is very emerging in terms of a sector. It's gaining a lot of traction around so, and actually a lot of people are becoming either content creators or scientific communicators post-PhD because they enjoy that creative aspect where they can use that research knowledge, combine it with a creative element and help companies or help their own, because some people are actually individual content creators. I'm trying to be one of them with this YouTube channel and Instagram page, Aamir.PhD by the way, if you didn't know, and sharing whether it's about science or about advice about how to do a PhD to help the next generation. It can be a viable career option. Now, a lot of these scientific communicators might be working for companies to write. They might have conducted the research and they're writing a report for it, for the layman audience perhaps. That's scientific communication, but it can mean all number of things. You might be paid to make content for a company. Some of us individual content creators, might have brand deals, but again, it's not a sustainable source of living for the most part. But if you want to be a scientific communicator, you can be employed by an actual company to write reports for them, to do writing for them, to make content for them. And a friend of mine actually does this, so it is a legitimate career option that can be quite fun. It's away from the lab, it might be away from academia, away from the stresses of being involved in funding. You get to be involved in research from a different point of view. So that is a very interesting option you can go down. And this option is not quite common, but I have seen it actually, which is why I wanted to talk about it in this video. And it's actually the notion of teaching, but not in academia. So whether you're in the UK, we know it as primary school or secondary school teaching. For those of you who are away from the UK, it'd probably be high school, I believe. So where you're teaching because you're involved, but you don't want to be around the whole hassle and bustle of university. I had a friend of mine whose research was in forensic science and very heavy mathematical chemistry as well, but she moved away to enjoy teaching in secondary school, so I think around year 10, 11, I'll put the right figures here because I can't remember the ages, but I remember I asked her, why not teach as a lecturer? She said, I wanted to help the younger generation. I enjoyed that bit. I wanted to be away from this headache and hustle. I didn't enjoy university life, unfortunately. I'm grateful for my PhD, I'm glad that I learned everything there, but I want to change. So you can do the teaching aspect, but you don't have to be in university in order to do that. Some go down the high school route, some go down the preschool, whatever the UK US equivalents are, I'll put them on the screen. But it's essentially teaching but away from university. And that is a viable option that some people do take, so something just to consider if you are interested in the teaching aspect of life, not just at university. And lastly, a massive career change. You might be, you don't have to be fed up with research, but you just might want a different challenge, something away. You've enjoyed your time, you don't see yourself going down that research route any longer, down the teaching route, or you don't want to be involved in that field at all, you just want a career change. That is a viable option. You can do that, it's not a problem. So I wanted to make sure that that is known and that is evident in this video, that sometimes it's forced because you might have not gone down the research route and it's been very successful for you, but sometimes it's by choice. Like maybe a hobby of yours whilst you're doing your research, something you want to do even in a bit more detail, or you want to do it in a bigger capacity, and you want research to be more of a side thing, more of a passion project. The reason why I mention this is essentially who I am now. This is what I do. What was a side hustle, which was getting involved in content, getting used to video editing and videography, is now a full-time source of revenue for me. It's a full-time source of income because, as I mentioned in many of the videos that you've seen on here, I couldn't make my research career successful enough because of responsibilities and priorities that I have, that negated me to branch out enough in order to excel my research career. And then I realized, even with that, I didn't enjoy academia anymore. I didn't really want to go down institute route, and I wanted that flexibility. So now making content and helping other people make content is how I earn a living to then run this YouTube channel and the Instagram page. And it allows for me to get involved in research on my own terms, from a consultant point of view, from a passive supervisor point of view, without being tied to anything, which is a great bonus to have. So that's my kind of take on a career change in a way, but you can still be involved in research on your terms. So those were 7 different career options you can take when you finish your PhD. I hope you find those useful. Let me know in the comments which one you are thinking of, and if you've got any questions about pros and cons that you want to discuss, you can let me know in the comment section down below. I'll still be very keen to respond to you. And if you did like this video, a like would be massive for me and the channel. If you want to subscribe, you are more than welcome to, because we've got many more videos coming down the line. However, if you're curious about what I mentioned earlier about why academia is toxic, in my opinion, I made a whole dedicated video, which you can see here, that I urge you to watch if you are considering sitting down in the academia space, because there's things you need to know, and that video will tell you.